Every Friday at exactly 4 o'clock, the same rancher arrived at Willow Creek Station. He never bought a ticket. He never boarded the train. He simply sat on an old wooden crate, holding a fresh bouquet of wildflowers, and waited. Train after train came and went. Passengers stepped into waiting arms. Wagons disappeared down the road. But the rancher always remained until the final whistle faded into the mountains. Then one Friday, the station master finally lost his patience and asked the question everyone had been afraid to ask. "Sir, who are you waiting for?" The rancher looked toward the empty tracks and quietly answered, "The woman I promised I'd never stop waiting for." But she had been gone for 17 years. Why was he still coming? And what happened when a young woman at the station discovered the truth behind those flowers changed everything she believed about love, promises, and letting go. If you enjoy emotional Wild West stories filled with mystery, loyalty, and powerful life lessons, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us until the end. Every Friday afternoon, Elias Turner rode the same 12 miles from his mountain ranch to Willow Creek Station. He arrived at exactly 4 o'clock, tied his horse beneath the old cottonwood tree, and walked onto the wooden platform carrying a fresh bouquet of wildflowers. Sometimes they were blue mountain asters, sometimes yellow daisies. In spring, he brought small white blossoms from the hills behind his ranch. Whatever the season, he always carried flowers. The station workers had become so accustomed to seeing him that they barely noticed anymore. Elias never caused trouble. He never asked questions about the trains. He never spoke to passengers unless someone spoke first. He simply sat on the same weathered crate beside the ticket office and waited until the final train departed before quietly returning home. The newest person at the station, a young woman named Clara Reed, noticed him differently. Clara had started working at the ticket window only 6 months earlier. She had heard stories about the rancher who came every Friday, but she had never understood why. At first, she assumed he was waiting for a business partner or perhaps a relative, but after watching him for several weeks, she began to notice the strange details. Elias never carried luggage. He never checked the timetable. He always looked toward the westbound train as if expecting someone to step down from the last carriage. And every Friday, before leaving, he placed the flowers on the end of the platform. Then he took them home the next morning. Clara became curious. One rainy Friday, she finally asked him, "Do you always bring flowers?" Elias looked at the bouquet in his hands. "Why?" He gave a faint smile. "Because she liked them." That was all he said. Clara didn't press him, but the next Friday she watched more carefully. At 4:15, Elias took his usual seat. At 4:30, the first train arrived. People embraced. Children ran toward waiting fathers. Women stepped down carrying bags while husbands reached for them. Elias stood each time the doors opened. Each time hope flickered across his face, and each time that hope disappeared. Finally, at sunset, the station became quiet. The station master, an older man named Henry, came outside and approached Elias. He had seen this ritual for nearly 10 years but had never dared ask. That evening, he finally stopped beside the rancher. "Mr. Turner." Elias looked up. Henry hesitated. Then he asked the question everyone had wondered about. "Who are you waiting for?" Elias stared toward the empty tracks for several seconds. Then he answered quietly, "Me wife." Henry's expression changed. "Your wife?" Elias nodded. 17 years ago, she boarded a train from this station. She promised she'd come back. Henry swallowed. "Did she?" Elias looked down at the flowers. "No." The station master felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. "Then why do you keep waiting?" Elias gently brushed a few petals from the bouquet. "Because when she left, I made her a promise." "What promise?" His voice broke slightly. "That if she ever came home, she'd find me here." Clara stood silently behind the ticket window listening. She had expected a strange love story. Instead, she had just heard about a man who had built his entire life around a promise that might never be fulfilled. But Elias hadn't told them the most important part. He hadn't told them why she left. And he hadn't explained why, after 17 years, he still believed she might return. That secret was waiting in a small leather envelope. he carried inside his coat every Friday. And when Clara accidentally discovered what was written inside it, the meaning of those flowers would change forever. The following Friday, Clara accidentally discovered the leather envelope when Elias dropped it beside the ticket window. Inside was a letter written 17 years earlier by his wife Margaret. She had not abandoned him willingly. She had left to protect him after discovering she was seriously ill and feared he would spend his life caring for her. In the letter, she promised that if she ever recovered, she would return on the first Friday she was strong enough to travel. But the letter contained another heartbreaking truth. She had never received the money Elias sent for her treatment, because someone at the station had stolen the envelopes. Clara immediately searched the old railway records and discovered several missing payments connected to Margaret's name. The evidence suggested she might still be alive somewhere beyond the mountains. Elias refused to believe it at first, afraid of hoping again. But Clara convinced him that waiting for someone and searching for someone were not the same thing. For the first time in 17 years, Elias decided he would not simply sit on the platform. He would go looking for her. Clara and Elias followed the old railway records to a small mountain settlement 2 days beyond Willow Creek. There, in a quiet cottage, they found an elderly woman named Margaret who still kept the same wedding ring around her neck. She had survived her illness, but had lost her way in the mountains years earlier, believing Elias had stopped searching because she never received his letters. When she saw him standing in the doorway, she could barely speak. Elias simply placed the same kind of wildflowers he had carried every Friday into her hands and whispered, "I told you I'd be here." Margaret cried because she finally understood that 17 years had not erased his promise. Their reunion became the talk of the valley, but Elias refused to call the years wasted. He said they had taught him that loyalty is not about waiting blindly. It is about keeping love alive while still having the courage to search for truth. Morale, a promise made with love should never become a prison. True loyalty means holding on to hope, but also having the courage to take the first step toward what you thought was lost. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us for more emotional Wild West stories filled with hope, faith, and unforgettable lessons.